Garda Show, 8 to 10 a.m. on Salam.
Right, let's get connected, and I really mean let's get connected, because my guest now is part of the daily feature we have with the Africa Muslims Agency, where we speak to one of the leaders, one of the management there. In this case, Ashraf Gangraker, and we're going to talk about getting connected. So, Ashraf, salam alaikum. Thanks for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, Ashraf. Great to be connected with you. And so,
Absolutely. So, yeah,
So
yeah. Right. So, tell
I
us about this. What does it mean getting
Yeah,
connected?
sure. I must be honest, Ashraf, if you can recall yesterday, I spoke about this thing of, forgiveness and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was going to continue with it today, but then last night, we were just I was inundated with the reports with the African Muslim Agency teams feeding in Malawi and feeding in the refugee camps of Lebanon. And then we were in Yemen and to the Rohingya people. And then here in Cape Town, Ashraf, I'm not sure if you know what buka is. Buka is iftar, right, on the Cape Flats, and so we've been
Let me
having
let
a
me let me let me let me just interrupt you. I
yes.
I have from my mother-in-law side, I have a strong Cape Malay influence. So
Oh,
ons
great,
kan ons
great.
ons kan maar ons kan maar Afrikaans praat. Ons kan
Afrikaanse
ons
praat.
kan
Nee,
ons
that's
kan
okay.
praat met die boomers stories on the 15th of Ramadan and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
great. That's going to be my topic on the 15th. So we've
Okay.
been having buka nights here, right? Iftar nights in the
Yeah.
streets of the Cape Flats. Bonchi
Yeah.
Hill, we've been in that type of thing. And then it just struck me, Ashraf, everybody who's either listening and watching will take a step back. How many people we know are either feeding, doing something connected to an organization, not just the AMA, the other people doing great work as well, right? But then I thought of the many people who, in fact, are not getting connected in this way at all. And so this morning is an appeal in that sense to perhaps come out of our gilded cages, come down from our ivory towers, and get connected. Because let's be honest, right? Everyone in Ramadan, no matter what level of spirituality we are, we want to do better. We want to have this heightened consciousness and get closer to Allah. But I think one of the major things to do is to get connected to Allah's creations so that you don't need to be an island, that you need to be isolated and you did. And it's not a question of doing things for name and fame. And this comes to me when, quite honestly, we're in Bonteville, crime ridden, and it's a scary place to be at night. But there is no sense of that when, quite honestly, people come and those who are in need of food. And I'm telling you, the greatest joy is to those people who are dishing out and presenting the food to those who are supposedly in need. And I stood there
Absolutely.
watching and thinking, actually, who's the one in need? And so for myself, Ashraf, I think, no, I'm doing this so that I can become grateful. It's almost like a test that Allah's given me, not them. Because Allah doesn't need me to fix anything, right? Doesn't need anybody. I mean, Allah can do this on His own. And so for me, today's talk is to say to people who think, well, okay, I'm okay on my own, and that's all right. And this, Ashraf, goes beyond money. Alhamdulillah, people are generous in Ramadan and they give money, and that's awesome. Money allows us to do the donations that we do. But I want to say to people, once you give money, then say, well, okay, great. I'd like to, accompany AMA or anybody else and see and be part of a distribution. Because I'm telling you, you're going to make connections and relationships with people that you will never forget. And too many of us are too busy doing everything else, but maybe getting involved for the sake of humanity. And once we do that, there's a sense of fulfillment that I think all of us, whether consciously or subconsciously, we yearn for, need, and will appreciate enormously. So our message today,
Absolutely.
guys, get
Yeah.
connected.
Absolutely. And just one thing, just to stay with that. I mean, there's a very big difference between the street booker in the Bukap, right? On the one hand, which is very much a settled community, not the wealthiest, but it's there, right? Versus Bonteheuwel, which and I mean, I'm certainly very aware of where Bonteheuwel is, right? And the implications thereof, right? How does a booker and food parcels, and I would take it's not just for Muslims, but there's a whole lot of people in that society who would be drawn to it. How does that change society and the people that you are connected with when you dish out these
Sure.
not just parcels but actual meals, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, and on Saturday we were, as I said, in Bridgetown serving out a hot meal. I mean, really big pots of akni and all of that stuff. And the first thing I want to say, that they are non-Muslims who come, and So what are we going to do? Turn away a non-Muslim and say, well, you're not of Allah's creation, you're not, you're not in need. And so no, we feed those who knock on our door, figuratively in this sense. So what does it do to the community? Now, there are two arguments here, Ashraf. We must be careful with regards to the handout mentality and create a sense of entitlement, because it happens in the townships as well, and elsewhere, that no, you must give us. But the biggest joy for me is when people say, I'm so glad we can eat meat. And I think if we just stop and think, perhaps many of our listeners, I'm not making too general a statement, this is a norm in our lives. And so to serve a hot meal in an area like Bonteheuwel, as I said to you, socioeconomically exceptionally challenged, great crime area. This weekend we're going to Hanover Park, which I'm sure you'll know about as well, Ashraf. So for us as African Muslims, we've earmarked these areas with a support team in the area. Like we were linked to Bonteheuwel Mosque. And it was for me wrapped up by a lady who's, alhamdulillah, has increased her station in life. She says she's moved to Goodwood, but she misses the community spirit of Bonteheuwel. So she came to assist at this feeding when 2 years ago she was the recipient of the feeding. But the sense of community spirit, when people get together to praise Allah and to glorify His name and to praise the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, etc., and then to join to have a meal in the process, I think just for one night, that is magical. And so by today, the meal is already gross, has been ingested, digested, egested, and we're back to our struggle. But for one night, we lift the spirits of communities, and that for me is invaluable.
And the question that we need to be talking about here in Johannesburg, why are we not getting connected to that level of street bukas or street iftars all around the various suburbs that make up the city of Joburg? I don't expect you to answer it. It's up to the audience here to say, actually, why are we not doing so? Ashraf, thanks for your time. Enjoyed this getting connected.
Always good to chat to you. Speak to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk again tomorrow. There you are. Why are we not doing so? You tell me. Ashraf Gangrekar. We'll do it again tomorrow with the Africa Muslims Agency. By the way, talking about AMA, Kari Yaish Ali, and you've heard the promos, has been part of the Syrian and Palestinian camps in Lebanon, and he's been performing his Tarawih there. We're going to chat to him pretty shortly. So looking forward to that conversation, as well as the conversation that's the follow-up on the Kenwyn Mosque, the Waterloo Mosque that is in Kenwyn in the suburb. We speak to one of the trustees there based upon what was said yesterday after the Imam was fired, apparently, and there were protests that took place over the weekend. But we'll talk finance in a moment.